Hello everyone, my name is Marcux and this is another Warmane video. This time it's going to be an update to the warrior guide I made 5 years ago. Since then, that video has received over 160,000 views. Not to brag, of course, but I still get questions from people to this day, so I'm going to use this as an opportunity to update the information I had 5 years ago. Some things have changed, and I do want to use this chance to correct myself and make changes based on what's going on in Warmane right now and my own personal opinion. This is also going to be separated in 3 parts. This is the first video, which is going to be about equipment, gems, enchantments, and stats. The next one will be on talents, and the third one will be on macros. You should expect to see the next video in about a week, and the third video in about 2 weeks, if everything works out well. So you might ask, what has changed? Why do you need to make another video because of changes in the game? Well, people have changed. The way the game is played has changed. Even though the patch is the same, people play differently. Since then, there are many more people who've come from BlackRock, which have certainly a lot of arena experience. People have improved at the game as well. Some people are still bad, of course. There's been a lot of time for people to learn, to improve, to try out new things, to try different combinations. And so this is what people have decided, what the community has decided, at least the community of warriors in my case, has decided that this is kind of the combination of stats and equipment that you want to have. So let's first of all talk about stats, because that's really the most important thing. If you know what stats to go for, then it makes things a bit easier for you. People nowadays have more resilience. So as you can see, I have 1085 resilience. In my last video, I had 949. The preference is now to use more resilience. Now, I have more resilience, but I still maintain the PvE off pieces that I had before, as well as the best in slot ring, trinkets, of course, Shadowmourne, and also Fallon Rush. People now have more resilience, and the benefits are quite simple. You take less damage, you are easier to heal, of course, if you take less damage, and that gives you more opportunities to play properly. You don't want to be stuck in defensive cooldowns, and you don't want to just be turtling all the time. You don't want to be with your one hand and shield all the time. So, having more resilience can actually help you be more offensive and do more damage. Also, if you have more opportunities to play properly, that's going to make a bigger difference than having a little bit more damage, a little bit more strength, a little bit more armor penetration. It's also vital that you have your hit rating cap. If you have less than 5% hit rating, you have quite a high chance of missing something like a mortal strike. And if you miss a mortal strike, that can be very problematic. So make sure with all of the equipment you have that you have 5% hit rating. There are some items that make things a bit easier. For example, the Ashen Band, which you get from ICC rep farms, give you 59 hit rating. You can also get the Wrathful Gladiator's Cloak of Victory. This gives you 60 hit rating, so that already is nearly 120, and with some items you get, you can add or you can remove hit rating, but make sure the hit rating is at 164 or more. The other thing that has changed is the conversation about armor penetration versus strength. In my first video, I said that there's an ongoing conversation about it, but it seems as if everyone has basically decided that armor penetration is better. And it does actually make a lot of sense. Armor penetration is good against everyone. You might think, well, priests don't have armor. Well, actually they do. Mages have armor as well. The cloth equipment does actually give armor, and so armor penetration works against that armor. So it does actually work for everyone. The reason why this is better than strength is, first of all, strength doesn't work as well against plate. So, for example, other warriors, death knights, ret paladins, or prot paladins as well. And because this game has Shadowmourne, a legendary two-handed weapon, then more people are likely to be playing warriors, death knights, paladins. And because there are more people who play that, it makes more sense to be good against plate. But it's still good against mages, warlocks, priests, and so on. Some of these classes also have spells that give them extra armor, and armor penetration works with that. So that's why the conversation has ended. Armor penetration is better than strength when it comes to getting equipment and gems. So I no longer gem strength. If I gem red, I gem armor penetration. You want to stay around 1000 and 1100 resilience. 1000 if you do lots of BGs, and around 1100 or something close to that if you do a world PvP and arenas. In BGs, there is less individual skill. It's more about getting groups, getting numbers, and also doing a bit more damage is quite important. And so decisions you make as a team is more important than really maybe taking a bit less damage, because you can queue with lots of healers if you really want. And so you can compensate. You can go low resilience, more healers. The reason for having higher resilience in arenas is because simply more people in higher ratings have more gear, they play better, they are better at their class, they do more damage with their class, and so like that you take a bit less damage, and that is helpful. So like that you don't have to use shield wall immediately or shield block or use enraged regeneration, or you have to go on your one hand and shield and constantly play defensive. Higher resilience is also better in world PvP because you don't have balanced fights. You might find you are 3 versus 4, 5 versus 7, 15 versus 20, these kinds of numbers. People do, you take more damage like that. It's very easy for you to take more damage. And so a bit more resilience, again, is helpful. Now I'm going to show you what equipment I use, and I'm also going to provide a spreadsheet of options you have on equipment if you don't have the money to donate, or you don't have the ability to go on 25 heroic raids like Icecrown Citadel and Ruby Sanctum 25 heroic. So if you're not sure about what to get, if for example you can't get best in slot items, which I can understand, then you have some options. Another thing to mention is that some gems and some enchantments will depend on how much hit rating you have. As I said before, you need to have 5% hit rating. You don't want to have more, you don't want to have less. You don't want to have more because it's a waste in stats, and you don't want to have less because you don't want to miss. Also, if you're a Horde warrior, you should use the stun reduction meta gem I can show you here. 42 attack power and stun duration reduced by 10%. Like this with an orc warrior, stuns don't last as long, so that's quite useful to have as an orc. So I'm going to go through the equipment I have and show you what I use, why I use it. So first of all, let's get the Wrathful Gladiators pieces out of the way. So I have the Wrathful Gladiators plate helm, plate shoulders, plate chest piece, gauntlets, and leg guards. This is, first of all, for a set bonus, but secondly, because you need the resilience. There's no point having tons and tons of damage if you die in 5 seconds. So I use the Wrathful Gladiator's plate helm. In this, I have the Arcanum of Triumph enchantment. This is from Wintergrasp, and you can get this, I think, with Stonekeeper shards. And this gives you 50 attack power, 20 resilience. I have the 21 agility and 3% increased critical damage metagem, the Relentless Earth Siege Diamond, and the Etched Ametrine, which gives me plus 10 hit rating, plus 10 strength. I only use this because of hit rating, because I need 164. If I don't use this, I have 160, and I can miss. So I would like to avoid that. The next piece is the Penumbra Pendant. This is from Ruby Sanctum 25 Heroic. This is a best in slot warrior pendant. It gives you lots of strength, nice stamina, crit rating, and of course, very importantly, armor penetration rating. This has a 20 resilience gem on it. Next piece, Wrathful Gladiator's plate shoulders, 40 attack power, 15 resilience enchant. This is the Inscription of Triumph, also I think from Wintergrasp. I'll leave a bit of text if I need to correct this. And the plus 20 resilience rating. The neck, the shoulders, all great. All of them have resilience if possible. Next piece is Varisa's Dexterity. There is a Horde equivalent of this, which I think is called Sylvanus' Cunning, and it's exactly the same. This is from the Trial of the Crusader 25 Heroic Tribute Chest, and it's quite difficult to get. Luckily, there's quite an easy alternative you can get from this called the Recovered Scarlet Onslaught Cape. You get that from Emblems in Dalaran, one of the vendors in Dalaran. On this, I have a 22 agility enchantment and a plus 20 resilience rating gem. Then I have the Wrathful Gladiator's plate chest piece. On this, I have the Nightmare tier, plus 10 all stats item. The reason I use this is because it counts as a blue gem. So like that, I can use the meta gem because the meta gem needs 1 blue gem. The enchantment I use is Exceptional Resilience. This gives you 20 resilience rating. Next item is Tosk's Maximized Wrist Guards. This is from ICC 25. It should be quite easy to get because Deathbringer Salfang is the 4th boss in ICC. So if you get the normal version or the heroic version, both of them are very good. So it shouldn't be too difficult for you to get. The other option is Bracers of the Air, which I don't have, but they are also very good. Like with other equipment, I have plus 20 resilience rating, plus 20 resilience rating, and this one I have the enchantment called Greater Assault. This gives 50 attack power. Next, we have the Wrathful Gladiator's Plate Gauntlets. I have the jewel crafting gems used, so for this you need jewel crafting, and I also have the extra gem slot for gloves, and so like this I use 2 high resilience rating gems, and so I take less damage like that. And because I need it, I use the plus 20 hit rating enchantment. This is called Precision. The next item is Cold Wraith Links. This is from ICC 25 Heroic. And I have the Eternal Belt Buckle, which is an enchantment which you can put on a belt to give you 1 extra gem slot. And on that, I put the Mystic King's Amber, the plus 20 resilience gem. Next up, the Wrathful Gladiator's Plate Leg Guards. Again, Wrathful Gladiator main set, plus 20 resilience, plus 20 resilience. And the enchantment is Earthen Leg Armor. This can be bought on the auction house, if I'm not mistaken, and it is made by leather workers. It gives you 40 resilience, it's quite a lot, it's quite nice, and 28 stamina. One thing that's important to remember here is that if you have Wrathful off parts, so like the Wrathful Cloak or the Wrathful Neck or something like that, what you can do is instead of using a resilience enchantment or resilience gems, you can gem armor penetration, because if you have wrathful off parts, then you get, let's see, how much resilience do I get? I don't have everything. You get quite a lot of resilience, and it's nice to have lots of resilience, but you don't need that much. It would be better if you do more damage. Next up are the boots. This is Apocalypse's Advanced. This is from Ruby Sanctum 25 Heroic. You get loads of strength. You're 165. It's really very high. It gives you more strength than the Wrathful Chest. It's quite ridiculous. So this is really, really very good. And the enchantment I use, this one's actually very important. It's 15 stamina and minor speed increase. This is called Tuskar's Vitality. There is an alternative. You can get the Blood-Soaked Saronite Stompers. Those are from ICC 25. There's also one you can get from Blacksmithing. This has 2 red gem slots, but again, because I'm going for resilience, I'm going to use 20 resilience. 20 resilience. If you have less gear, it might be good if you satisfy the gem sockets you have. So, for example, if you have a red gem slot and a red gem slot, then you should probably put red and red here if you already have lots of resilience. So like that, you get a little bit more strength. For example, here I have extra crit, extra resilience, stuff like that. Now, you might have noticed that I do actually get quite a lot of agility from these pieces, and it's quite simple. Agility is actually very good. It increases your crit rating, so I have very, very high crit chance, and I also get a bit more armor from it. So this is actually quite a good defensive stat. And I've also learned that agility increases your chance to dodge. So if you dodge things in PvP, that's great. Next up, let's look at rings. I use the Ashen Band of Endless Vengeance. This is again agility because of the crit, the armor, the dodge, and this is from ICC Rep Farms, so it's basically free. On Warmane, you have increased reputation, so you can farm much more quickly. And so there's really nothing else you should use. It's the equivalent of an ICC 25 heroic item, and you also get a proc from it, a chance on hit to increase your attack power by 480 for 10 seconds. So there's really no reason not to use this. But if you want to use something different, there's also Signet of Twilight. That's from Ruby Sanctum, so not so easy to get. But that gives you a hit rating The next thing that you want on a ring is, again, something that has agility, something that has stamina, and that is Frostbrood's Sapphire Ring. The alternative to this is Might of Blight, which gives you strength, but they give similar stats. This one gives a little bit more armor penetration, and again, agility gives you crit, gives you armor, gives you dodge, so that for me is better. Both of these rings, again, as you can see, have 20 resilience rating gems on them, and no enchantments. Now let's talk about trinkets. Trinkets have actually changed a little bit. The conversation about trinkets, of course, pretty much everyone agreed that these were better, that Deathbringer's Will and Sharpened Twilight Scale were the best combination. But people now have stopped using Deathbringer's Will. People now use Whispering Fanged Skull. I actually don't have it. The icon is the same as Death's Verdict. The thing that's good about it is that both of these trinkets trigger their proc at the same time, and the duration is the same, which means that when you get your Sharpened Twilight Scale proc, you also get your Whispering Fanged Skull proc, and they combine to give you a lot more attack power. So that's very useful. If you can keep track of your internal cooldowns, if you can keep track of when these trinkets proc, you'll have a great opportunity to do a lot of damage. So that's something you can think about and something you can do. If not, then if you have Deathbringer's Will, then that's great. Whispering Fanged Skull is actually quite simple to get. It drops from Lady Death Whisper in ICC 10 Heroic and Normal. Deathbringer's Will drops from Deathbringer Sourfang. This is probably the most ninja looted trinket in the world, but
that one is not too difficult to find. If you're in a PvE guild, it's a bit easier because you have the DKP system. Sharpened Twilight Scale is still definitely the best in-slot trinket though. It drops from Ruby Sanctum 25 Heroic. It has lots of armor penetration, a nice proc chance which gives you a chance to gain 1472 attack power for 15 seconds. Also, if you can't access this equipment, on the spreadsheet I created, there are some other options for you to use and consider. The ranged weapon isn't really used for fighting. We mainly have it for stats. So in this case, we try to get the ranged weapon with the highest amount of stats. In this case, it's Fallon Rush, Defender of Quel'Thalas. And that, as you can see, gives you lots of agility and lots of stamina. The ranged enchantment there, it's not really needed, it's just there because it's one of the only ones available. It's 40 critical strike rating for ranged only. So this enchantment is useful for maybe a hunter, but not really for warriors, but I have it anyway. I still use a plus 20 resilience gem. Another good option that lots of people use is Gluth's Fetching Knife. Was there any surprise that Shadowmourne would be the best in-slot item? One thing that has changed, though, is that the enchantment you should be using is Executioner and not Berserking. Berserking is good, but the problem with it is that it makes you take 5% more damage. Executioner doesn't have this problem, and as we talked about before, more armor penetration is better. On this weapon, I have armor penetration gems, because my way of thinking about it is, I have my two-handed weapon to deal damage, and when I go defensive, I switch to my one-hand and shield, which have resilience gems and enchantments. Luckily, you don't need Shadowmourne to be successful. Of course, it is the best item, but you do have some other options. Lich King 25 Heroic drops Oathbinder, Charge of the Ranger General. That's still not very easy to get, but if you're in a PvE guild, that's doable. It can of course also be bought for coins in the Warmane coin shop if you're comfortable opening your wallet. Oathbinder gives you agility instead of strength, so it works differently. You get a lot of crit, which can be very useful for lower geared players. The other option you have is Ramaldani's Blade of Culling from ICC 10. I got this heroic one because no one in the raid wanted it, so if you raid ICC 10 and this drops, there's a good chance you'll get it if you want it. I recommend, if possible, axes or polearms because of the poleaxe specialization talent. This is something I'll talk about in my next video. When it comes to one hand and shield, I use wrathful items. The reason for this is if I'm playing defensively, I use the one hand and shield, so I want the extra resilience. On this, I have the 34 resilience jewel crafting gem. I use one jewel crafting gem on each weapon, so when I switch item, I get slightly more stats. More armor penetration when I equip Shadowmourne, and more resilience when I equip one hand and shield. This has been a look at items, gems, and enchantments for Warrior in patch 3.3.5a. As I've said before, this is a series of which there are 3 parts. This is the first installment of the series. Next video is going to be about talents, and after that, macros. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. I stream every Thursday at 10 PM Central European Time, and I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you very much for watching, and have a nice day. Goodbye.